Imagine being able to rewatch your favorite TV show with your best friend, who has literally never seen an episode before. That's our premise, and what we hope will set us apart from the other Office podcasts you may have stumbled across. So welcome to Bears Beats Bobbleheads, Talkin' Office, the podcast where three brave souls discuss every episode of The Office, from pilot to finale, and we get a fresh reaction from someone who has just watched the episode for the very first time in their life only hours before. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office, and we are all the way to Season 2, Episode 14, The Carpet, which was first aired January 26, 2006, written by Paul Lieberstein, Toby Flenderson himself, and directed by Victor Nelly Jr. A little bit different episode this week. We are missing one of our co-hosts. Joe is out on assignment this week, so he will not be joining us, but I am joined as always with Paul, who is the co-host who has watched the episode for the first time. So we are going to get through it, the two of us, and we believe Joe will be back next episode. But let's start, Paul, like we start every single episode of Bears Beats Bobbleheads, by each of us giving our favorite moment. And since Joe is off, I'm going to give that honor to you. What was your favorite moment from The Carpet?
My favorite moment from The Carpet was the Kelly stuff. That we really got a big dose of Kelly in this episode, which was not how I viewed how her character was going to go.
Okay. Can you extrapolate a little bit? Or do you want to save that for when we get to it?
Yeah, let's save that till we get to it, because there was a lot that went on there, but that was like totally left field. Like, I did not see that coming.
So the Kelly arc would be your favorite. Okay.
Yep.
All right. My favorite for the second episode in a row, my favorite moment is in the cold open. It is when Ryan is taking over at reception for Pam. So we're kind of going to start talking about the episode. Since it's my favorite moment, we might as well just, get into it. So in the cold open, as I started, Pam is on vacation, and Jim keeps looking at Ryan funny, who is subbing for her at reception. And my favorite moment is when Ryan says, it's nothing compared to the way Michael looks at me. And we see that shot of Michael just, oh my God, just staring daggers at Ryan. And then he gets caught with the camera and kind of plays it off. But what was your thought? Because we've talked about, and you're seeing this weird thing, this infatuation of sorts that Michael has for Ryan, and that just took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's creepy, but I just think that's the way that Michael comes off. My interpretation of it all is that he looks at Ryan as who he wanted to be at that age. Like there's a jealousy and a but more than that, there's a nostalgia.
Like a vicarious?
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's the word. A vicarious through Ryan. That's how I look at it.
So you don't see it as any like weird attraction?
No, I don't.
Okay. We learned that Pam plus spam plus hamster equals spamster, Paul.
What's up, spamster? Oh, God. Yeah. She was not impressed by that joke either.
No. Never gets his jokes, as we learned in the last episode.
Yeah, she never gets my jokes. Oh, God.
We also learned that Pam just got back from a vacation to the Poconos with Roy, Paul.
That, yeah, did you get some? And then immediately takes the mood out of Pam.
I gotta say, I kind of identify with Pam when she's recounting about how she, gets so many vacation days each year, and she lasted till, what was it, like mid-January?
No, she lasted to the third week of January.
Just burning a hole in her pocket. Like, I get that. Like, if you're at a job you really don't like, and I think it's safe to say that she is less than inspired by her job. getting the chance to take time off is always welcome and hard to put off. And yes, very relatable Pam moment for me right there.
You and I have work jobs where I think we burned every vacation day that as soon as we got that day, we took it. Just so we didn't have to be there.
Michael discovers something in his office, Paul.
Oh, God. So I'm assuming it's shit. Like, that's because it's not vomit. And Creed thinks someone's making soup.
I got to be honest with you. When I actually rewatched it today. I always watch the episode before we do a recording. I don't always watch it like the day of recording, like you've made a habit of doing. But when I watched it today, I turned to my wife and I said, I would bet money that this is going to be Paul's favorite moment is when Creed comes up and said, somebody making soup? And then Michael looks at him.
That was one of three. One of three. Yes.
So a major short list. Okay.
It was a major short list. I had a major short list. That was number 2. That was number 2. Yep. I will say that because of that line, I thought it was him through most of the episode.
Ooh, yeah. I was going to ask you. I probably was going to wait more till the big reveal to see, but I mean, we can talk about it now. So that was your betting money early was on it being Creed that took a shit on Michael's carpet.
Yes. It was me the whole time. I had money on Creed that Creed took the shit on Michael's carpet. Yep.
As Roy and Daryl replace Michael's carpet, Michael takes Jim's desk in the bullpen, sending Jim to the annex next to Kelly. And I'm assuming we can start talking about it now.
Well, before we get there, I want to say that there was Michael had a great talking head point. I'm a big fan of Fear Factor.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Fear Factor. Well, I'm a big fan of anything that Joe Rogan does, and I look at this as my fear. I can't do this anymore. And he walks out of the office and demands they replace the carpet because the cleaning lady sucks at her job.
If a funny little thing I saw, like just doing some brief research on this, I guess Steve Carell, I believe it must have been the scene where they first open up, where he opens up his office, and everybody comes and smells what happened in there. I guess he actually threw a stink bomb in there prior to when the camera started rolling. So a lot of the reactions that you're getting from him and everybody else and Kevin, who he walks in there, that was for real. Like it smelled awful just for the sake of realism.
And backing up just a little bit more, he locked Kevin in there.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what it is, Kevin. Tell me what it is. You gotta let me out. I can't hold my breath this long.
I just love how he shoves him in there and then just quickly shuts the door behind.
Shuts the door on him. What a dick move, Michael.
Oh, okay. So yes, now let's get to the Kelly here. So Jim gets seated next to her in the annex, and was it the amount of talking what was it about Kelly that caught you so
much by surprise? First of all, Toby had to leave because he had an allergy to the desk. Right? Toby had to move because he had an allergy to the desk. And then Michael's like, Jim's like, that's weird. And then we get Kelly's personality tenfold. And that was not how I saw her character going. I did not see her being this overly talkative chatterbox. And it took me for such a loop. I think that's why it's my favorite moment. Because, again, I haven't seen these before, so I had a different idea. I always took Kelly's to be going to be more reserved, more quiet, like she has been. That whole thing, it was so far left field that it stuck with me through the entire episode. Like, every time she comes up, and then she's talking about how much she likes Ryan, and she forces Jim to go ask her about Ryan. And then we get more in the Ryan. Oh, my, that dynamic was great.
And speaking of having Jim involved there, he is you can tell it on his face, but just think about him as a character, the last person that would want to be a go-between between Kelly and Ryan about any mutual attraction that they have in the world would be Jim. That is so not not his wheelhouse.
Very much agreed. Yes. No, you could tell that he didn't like it. That was not his thing. You could tell that immediately he understood. He was like, "Oh, okay." Which is, he's like, "Oh, okay." Like he gets right away why Toby moved. And she loves pink, and she loves the color pink and the band pink, and
just very, very girly girl, chatty Kathy.
Yes, and that was not how I viewed her character going. I viewed her being very reserved, very stoic, very serious. So when this happened, I was like, did not see that coming from Kelly.
Mm. We learned Michael's true feelings about his previous manager, Ed Truck, and his longtime coworker and best bud, Todd Packer, who we've met, of course. So yeah, I mean, I just thought it was kind of a neat scene. We finally kind of get an idea of, the Dunder Mifflin office prior to Michael running it. That picture where he's got the long hair.
He's got the mullet. He's got the mullet. That's the second time we've seen that picture.
Is it?
What's that?
It was the second time? When did we see it?
It was the second time we saw it, I think, in the first episode.
Oh.
Yep. It was the second time we saw that picture. And
well remembered.
What's that?
I said well remembered because I completely forgot.
Well, again, I'm first time seeing it, so I'm keeping a lot of things in my head. And I remember that picture very, very, very vividly because it was hilarious. We learned that he never wanted to be anything like Ed Truck.
Mm-hmm.
And
doesn't he kind of strike you as like, a parent that rebels against? Because, Ed Truck, you can tell by looking at Ed Truck, we do meet him later. But like you can just tell that he is a very serious, no nonsense type of guy, and doesn't he feel like he feels like a kid that rebelled against his parents and wanted to be nothing like his dad, or something like that?
Yeah, I very much get that vibe. That Michael also talks about all the fun they had in the bullpen and all the stuff they used to do. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we'll get to that as well, like the raids they put on accounting.
Yeah, I mean, just some of the stories, the Todd Packer stories he shares in succession, just awful stuff.
Yeah, how he slept with all the women in the office as a joke.
As a joke, yeah.
As a joke. Michael doesn't see anything wrong with that.
They walked around all day without any pants on.
Convince everyone else that they were crazy.
Yeah.
So
that was life. That was life in the previous Dunder Mifflin. So I don't know. I just thought it was a nice little throwback, or just gives you perspective, and it also does help get you to where Michael is at today, and maybe what made him the way he is.
And it reminds me, it's not that far off, because again, there's a company that you and I both went into around the same time, and we heard stories about what it was like a couple years previous. Mm-hmm. I think you know exactly which place I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And we hear all these crazy wild parties that the boss used to throw, and this used to happen, and that used to happen. And so it kind of reminded me of, there was a little bit of hey, I know what that's like, talking about the glory days. And even my way, there was a company I worked for when I was 16 that was way different than when I was there when I was 18. Like, those 2 years created a totally different environment. And when I was there when I was 16, it was out of control, crazy. And by the time I was 18, it had settled down.
Okay. All right, well, let's take our first break, and then we will come back and talk more The Carpet here on Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office. We'll be right back. If you're enjoying our Office podcast, be sure to check out Cast That Movie, the podcast where Paul and I, using our superhero aliases, revisit failed cinematic projects from the past. We discuss what went wrong, and then we try to fix the mess by going back in time and recasting the project with a cast we feel would have elevated the material. We also assign a new director/visionary. Because you can never have too much of a good thing, we also conjure up a dream project of something we would like to see made into a film, and we cast that as well. So find Cast That Movie on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, or at our home at thejodown.blog. Welcome back to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office Sans Joe edition. It's just Paul and I here for this episode, and we are talking Season 2, Episode 14, The Carpet. So returning to our action, out of his office and in the bullpen, Michael is somehow even more obnoxious, Paul.
Boy, howdy. Yeah, but Dwight loves it. Dwight is so excited. Dwight loves it. No one else does.
I know, and just when Michael thinks up the sales incentive, and it talks about he's going to take Jim's clients because Jim isn't here today, even though he is there today. And then one of my favorite moments is actually when Dwight goes, "Michael's going to wipe the floor with us." It's such a sycophant.
Yes, he is. Yep, because he wants to have that sale, so he's going to put the money up, and then he sees, what's Daryl?
Daryl, yep.
He sees Daryl, and then he decides he's going to move the money. Oh, cringe.
Yeah.
Cringe.
You already brought it up, but next year we learned that Kelly has a crush on Ryan. So we talked about it briefly, but any surprise there that those two characters, that there's possibly something happening?
A little bit of a surprise, because didn't she try to make out with Dwight?
Dwight at the Christmas party, yeah.
Yeah, and those are like two different people.
Mm-hmm. Very different people.
Very different people. So I did find that weird that she would have a thing for Dwight, and she wants marriage and the whole thing and long term and this and that.
But don't tell Ryan. Yeah, but you got to keep in mind though, the Christmas party, they were 20 people drinking 15 bottles of vodka, so
that creates a difference. That creates a different atmosphere.
Absolutely. And then you kind of alluded to it though. Michael and Dwight send up accounting. Just more kind of Michael, kind of like you put it, like old glory days behaviors, and it's funny because the accountants, they obviously don't find anything funny about it, but they just tolerate it. But Michael just kind of hits this other gear of I don't know, impishness or something. Like the bullpen just like awakens something within him.
I think he's trying to relive the Todd Packard glory days. I do. I think that's what it is. I think because he talks about it, he's like, oh man, you guys don't know how much work I do in there. I'm learning Michael's miserable being a manager. And he just wants to goof off all day. And he carried that with him to the manager.
Michael seems genuinely confused why someone would ruin a perfectly good carpet, Paul. So at first he's not even like seeing it as a slight to him or a prank played on him or anything like that. It's more like, why would they do that to a carpet? Not why would they do that to me? That changes, but like that's his initial, or is that just a defense mechanism? He's not admitting to himself that clearly somebody was fucking with him.
Total defense mechanism. Michael has a very big, I think a very big wall. And I think he has to very much clear his, or protect this thing, because I think he does have such a fragile ego.
Mm.
So yes, I think that is a very much a total defense mechanism. I think you nailed it.
Jim has nowhere to go, Paul. He seems quite lost and displaced in this episode. That was kind of a theme throughout it. I mean, he's literally displaced by Michael when Michael takes his desk. And then there's just that scene where he's like looking somewhere to eat lunch, and Pam and Roy are hanging out in the lunchroom and doesn't want to go back to the annex because Kelly's back there. So he goes into the bathroom, right? I mean, it's just, he just really seems like a man without a place throughout the entire episode.
He is new insight into him with this particular episode. He is very codependent on Pam for his happiness at the office.
Mm-hmm. And getting a little ahead of ourselves, I think we kind of find out at the end. We'll talk about it.
We will. Let's wait for that part.
Yes, I was going to say, but we kind of learned that goes both ways. Just a little teaser for the end here. Seeing everyone is giggling about what happened to his carpet, Michael cancels the sales contest and proclaims himself the victim of a hate crime, Paul.
It's a hate crime because I hated it.
Well, I hated it.
Well, I hated it. Yeah.
Stanley, that's not what a hate crime is.
Well, I hated
it.
it.
Good line.
Yeah, it's getting to him at this point that no one's coming forward and that someone did it, and I think he's starting to hit him now. Again, we talk about the fragile ego. The cracks are beginning to appear, and he doesn't know how to handle it. And that's very, very apparent.
I think he sees, I want to say it was Creed and Oscar, I believe, were just kind of giggling, across the office.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed that was what set him off and what got him to cancel the contest. Was he's taking it suddenly very personally.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, something just kind of broke inside him that, this, the novelty of being out in the bullpen could no longer override the fact that somebody, did that to him because it was his office.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly it. It's his office. It's his carpet. And I think and he's looking, he's trying to figure out a way. And now he's just realizing that someone in the office did this to him. Like, that realization is finally starting to set in.
Mm-hmm. As I mentioned earlier, we meet Michael's old boss in the flesh, Ed Truck. And he is, of course, very much not like Michael. And when he says, the line where he's like, why can't your friends be your friends, family be your family, coworkers be your coworkers, that is just flies in the face of Michael's entire philosophy with how he views his employees.
Yes, I thought this was very interesting, and it showed more to the Michael character, that he was so distraught that he called his old boss that he didn't like and didn't want him. He's like, "Hey, can we go up there?" "No, I don't want you up there." And he tries to rationale with him, and Ed says someone did the same thing to him.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I know who that is.
Right. That was kind of a clue to it too,
yes.
right? In
yes,
retrospect.
that was very much a clue. Very much a clue.
But at this point, you're still thinking it's Creed, right?
Because Creed mentioned earlier that Ed was the one that hired him.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I was taking a lot of that as this was leading towards Creed.
Sure.
So, yes.
I mean, he is definitely a good suspect to have if you're going to make a list. I think most people not knowing who it was, of the people there who had access to the office, yeah, he's a logical person to put up there. No doubt about it. In a very cringy scene, Jim asks Brenda from the booze cruise, of all people, out on a date, on the phone, on a voicemail, Paul.
It is the most awkward voicemail, right?
The premise of doing that is awkward in and of itself. It could not have gone well.
No. That was I didn't click that it was Brenda from the booze cruise.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No.
Which it makes it even more weird because we don't see them interact whatsoever on the cruise.
No.
He's there in the middle of a breakup with Katie, and she's there just, monitoring Michael's behavior the entire time.
Yeah, I thought so. That's interesting that you brought up. I just thought it was a Brenda that he knew. It didn't click with me that was Brenda who he left the voicemail with.
Yeah, because he got it through the corporate directory.
Oh, sure. Yes. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, this is just Jim is just really, he's almost flailing, I think, in this episode.
Very much so.
I mean, I guess you could make the argument that he's, sees this thing going on with Ryan and Kelly, and that sparks some sort of like an inspired effort to try to score a date with someone he met briefly, but I don't know.
No, I also think what's going on is that Roy is up there with Pam the entire episode. Mm-hmm. He can't get Pam away from Roy, and I think the fact that he's seeing Pam with Roy is really bothering him as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that was that, and I think the Kelly and Ryan thing pushed him over the edge to reach out to this Brenda.
Right. The mystery is finally solved. when Packer calls to inform Michael that it was him who left the big package on Michael's carpet, Paul.
Did you get my package? No. Are you sure? No, I didn't get your package. Where'd you leave it? In the middle of your office? Was there a package in the middle of my office?
Oh, so how your reaction when you found out it was Packer?
It didn't surprise me. I was like, oh, fuck, I should have thought Packard right away. But I didn't. But then Jim's mood changes. He thinks it's a hilarious joke because it's Todd. Everyone else is disgusted that it's Todd. But it immediately changes
you mean Michael's mood changes?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Michael mood changes because he's immediately thinks the joke is funny. It's ha because it was Todd that did it. Everyone in the office is kind of appalled when they find out it's Todd, and he's also this help him get his faith back in the employees. He's right back to they do love me, like boom. Yeah, and he's just it also was just depressing. He's a Todd sycophant.
Mm-hmm. Everybody leaves for the day, and Jim checks his messages to find 7 messages, all from Pam, Paul.
This was my third favorite moment. That's why I wanted to wait for it. This was on my short list of my favorite moments of the episode. Because it was a heartwarming end. That all day she's also sending him messages and that she was making this contact out to Jim. And again, it just grows the whole how cute Jim and Pam are, if not codependent. I don't think it's a healthy relationship. I don't know if I made that clear in our other episodes, but I don't think Jim and Pam have a very healthy relationship.
Right. Yeah, but codependent, I think we're definitely starting to see signs of that. But yeah, I mean, it was after just what he went through in the entire episode for it to end on a positive, and he could go home and have a smile on his face. Mm-hmm. It was a nice way to end what was a pretty cringy episode all around. It was a very cringy episode all around, but if you think about it, he had 7 messages. She was sending him messages on the hour. Mm-hmm. About the most inconsequential things. What's that thing that we call? I forget what it was. Something we have something stuck in our shoe. Yep. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I think that does it for the carpet. We are going to take our last break, and then we will come back, and we will both give our winners from the episode as well as our general takeaway of the episode, and then we'll check in with Paul to see if the carpet had enough to become his new favorite episode of The Office, and if Jim is still his favorite character. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Paul Muad'Dib, one half of Podcast Above a Convenience Store, Talkin Twin Peaks, which I work on with Joseph Fremming, who's also on the podcast that you're listening to right now. We go through all of Twin Peaks, Season 1, Season 2, the movie, the books. Right now we're digging into Season 3, which will end the podcast with the final dossier, which was the last book that was put out by Mark Frost, putting a cap on everything that's happened in the Twin Peaks universe. So please, check us out. You can find us on the joedown.blog with everything else on here. You can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify. There's no reason why you don't want to listen.
Welcome back to Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office. We are wrapping things up here on The Carpet, Season 2, Episode 14. So let's do what we always do. Again, Joe is not with us this week, so I'm going to let you start again. Who was the victor? Who won the episode in your eyes?
Kelly.
I kind of saw that coming with
Kelly. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, that's not how I saw her character going, and I thought it was hilarious. That is an amazingly written left field turn. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, credit Paul Lieberstein then for finally giving her a more rounded character. I mean, a lot of this is writer's room stuff, and you got to imagine Mindy Kaling had a lot of say into how her character was going to develop. But
100%,
he did write the episode technically. So, for me, I'm going to go with Michael. It wasn't a big win by any sense. I'd say Kelly was maybe at top 3, and I thought Jim too, because there's a lot of emotions with Jim in this episode, but I just it was just another great performance from Carell, which we're getting that seemingly episode to episode, but and I'm not spoiling anything that's pretty much the norm, but I don't know. I just, for some reason, just his recounting of, we got insight into what makes Michael based on, how the office was run and the dynamic prior to him becoming the regional manager. So we learned a lot about the Michael character as well as the Kelly character, of course. And yeah, I would say this is not a classic by any sense. I mean, it's a pretty good premise, a pretty good setup, but not a whole lot of gut-busting laughs, a few really funny moments, but a lot of good character development. Again, I think that's similar to the last episode. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, absolutely. Yes, it was very much a more of a move the ball episode.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then as far as your favorite episode, the injury, I believe, is your favorite one to date, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And did this have enough to overtake that?
It did not, but I think what's going to surprise you is I actually really liked this episode, though.
Oh,
this
doesn't surprise me.
This was a highlight episode. I think if there had been a few more jokes in it, it could have overtaken the injury.
So the character development.
Character development of it was great. There was little small things throughout the entire the part where they were raiding and Angela gives Dwight that look, so he just grabs one pen and throws it.
Or just gently tosses it. He doesn't even really throw it.
Yeah. There's just little small things throughout the episode that was great. They just weren't overly funny to me. But I thought the episode was solid in terms of pacing, in terms of growth, in terms of the jokes that were in it. I really enjoyed the episode.
And then we kind of glossed over that raid, but I thought a really funny moment in that too was after they do it, and then Michael goes to Pam, "Be careful, Pam, or you're next." And she's like, "You're gonna throw my stuff all over the floor?" He's like, "Maybe."
Yeah, and the Dwight goes, "Are we gonna help them?" No.
No, we don't do that.
No, we don't do that.
And then favorite character, still Jim?
Still Jim. Oh, yeah, especially, that end when just you got to smile. And like you said, you got a lot of emotion out of Jim this one. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I like the Pam and Jim codependency. I'm not sure I like that. But I still like Jim as a character.
Right. But it is a believable dynamic with those characters, you would agree, right?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it. I think you've seen it in Offices. I've seen it in Offices. That's a very real dynamic.
Okay, I think that does it then for Season 2, Episode 14, The Carpet. But we will be back next week, hopefully with Joe in tow, to cover Season 2, Episode 15, Boys and Girls. Until then, that's Paul. I'm Scott. This is Bears Beats Bobbleheads Talking Office. We will talk to you next week. For more podcasts like this one and general pop culture tomfoolery, be sure to visit thejoedown.blog. That's thejoedown.blog.